So I want to talk about the link between cowards and Democrats. So let's look at their demographic. Poor people, minorities, uh, immigrants, women, uh, Muslims. So what do these people share? Okay, well, they share poverty, okay, historically and presently. Now, what's the risk of poverty? Well, the risk of poverty is death, okay, the lack of security. So these people are facing a greater risk of death and they're folding under the pressure. Okay, they're not maintaining righteousness as they're supposed to. Not only are these people impoverished, but they live in dangerous communities. They lack physical strength and health. Okay, these things contribute to fear. So you're just seeing that statistically, people that face fear, the risk of death, are voting Democrat. Okay, because they're caving. They're leaning towards crime and savage attempts. Okay, they're folding under the pressure. So impoverished people, okay, they face things like malnutrition. Okay, they face things like not having access to a gym. Okay, not having access to, you know, fitness technology. Okay, not having time, to have a workout routine and a meal plan. Okay, so generally they're not fit, they're not strong, they can't physically defend themselves, and they live in dangerous communities ridden with crime. So when you're talking about impoverished people, when you're talking about minorities, okay, they face these things. Now, women, as we know, are physically weaker than men, you know, just for the most part. So they face this same fear of not being able to physically protect themselves, okay, when it comes to impoverished women, minority women, okay, they're facing these fears of poverty. They're facing the malnutrition, they're facing the lack of access to uh, exercise stuff, and on top of that, they're female, so they have more fear of physical attack. And then when it comes to Muslims, okay, they're impoverished. They face malnutrition and stuff in those countries a lot, comparatively, and they also face violence towards apostasy. Okay, so what I'm saying is that cowardly people, they they join the evil oppressors. They join the violent, you know, they cower to violence, and they become savages. They join forces with the violent entity. Okay, they don't stand up against it. They hurt people along with them. They cower and they beg and all that stuff. So when it comes to cowards and Democrats, you look at the demographic. Okay, you see the correlations. These are just cowardly people turning to savagery, cowering before savages and joining forces with the savages, responding to violent threats, you know, by joining forces with the oppressor. The apostates, instead of becoming an apostate, you know, they just maintain their allegiance with their violent oppressor. Um, okay, it's obviously the Democratic Party is well, it's a large criminal organization based on savagery and manipulation, and yeah, some people get confused about the things that they propose in their platform. They have their excuses as to why they're doing what they do. They try to manipulate people that it's for some good cause, and some people do get confused. But it is a lot of savage people with ill intent trying to manipulate, knowing they have no basis of logic. Okay, just savage attempts at survival, from impoverished people, from racist minorities and sexist women and terrorists and, you know, other kinds of manipulative, outrageous religions, just totally contradictory. All right, that's just the fact of the matter. As you well know, when you encounter, impoverished communities, weak people, physically weak people, statistically, they cower and they make excuses for violent oppressors, for criminals, out of fear of retribution from these criminals. They'll join the criminals and try to manipulate about, the criminals actually committing the crimes. They'll say, oh, no, that person's not violent. Oh, that religion's not, that's not a terrorist organization. Knowing that it is, knowing that that person is violent. Okay, and that is the same as joining forces with that person. Okay, so it's just a bunch of cowards. I'm telling you how cowards act for the most part. I'm telling you how this demographic of people act for the most part. And it's very plain to see. Okay, you look at the policies, you look at the demographic, you use your common sense, you understand statistics. Okay, it's just so obvious what's going on here. So even kids lean more Democrat because they're weaker. Okay, they face bullies in school. Okay, the Democratic Party is very violent. Okay, and I remember being a kid. All right, these individuals in school, these racists, these mean girls, manipulative mean girls, getting the boys to bully for them, stuff like that. Aggressive Muslim kids. You face violence when you're a kid, and the repercussions are weak for children. So, kids face bullying. They face the pressure of the oppressive Democratic Party. They lean more Democrat. Now, as you go up in age, okay, it starts to become more Republican because people become more financially stable. They become physically stronger. Okay. Retired individuals that aren't worried about, having to cower before the democratic oppressors, not being able to speak their mind and speak logically because they're facing manipulative savages. Okay, they're already retired. They're not trying to maintain a job. They vote more Republican. They speak their mind. When it comes to military members, they vote Republican. Okay, strong people. When it comes to athletes, okay, in the NFL, they vote Republican. They give donations to the Republican Party. Even though they have the racial demographic that they do, they still donate more Republican. The owners donate Republican as well. It's just a matter of bravery. It's a matter of security. Okay, these things affect the likelihood of somebody cowering before a violent oppressor.